Hi, my name is Landy Nikole, and I'm here tonight to share my story out of Mormonism. So, let's see. I left the Mormon religion back in 2004, and I didn't find Jesus until just over a year ago. So, I'll start with the beginning. The first memory I kind of had as a child was pretty strongly listening to adults and not to ask questions. And that if you ask questions, it's like you lack faith in your wicked or something. I just knew not to ask questions, and then when I did, I was always pushed aside. So that was something that I just kind of kept and would bottle up, because I was a very curious person, and I thought a lot on Jesus, and I had a lot of questions, but I just decided I would just keep it in. So when I was baptized at the age of 8, I remember very vividly thinking, being confused a bit on was I ready, and I felt like this overwhelming feeling like I'm gonna fail, because it was like the feeling that you need to, in a sense, be working towards perfection, and I just had this feeling of knowing that I was gonna fail. But I was kind of excited as well, but I was confused because I knew I was gonna be a member of the church, but I thought, isn't baptism? I kept thinking about like John the Baptist, and they would go in and to the water for Jesus. So, but of course I didn't say any of that. But right after I got baptized, when I came out of the water, I couldn't move, and I just froze. And I knew something wasn't quite right, but I just stood there, and my dad had to kind of coax me out of the water. And I just remember this feeling of knowing that I would understand someday, but I wasn't going to understand then. But I knew something wasn't quite right. So after I was baptized, kind of in the years before my teenage years, certain things happened. Like, I remember my sister saying to me, "Don't you think the celestial kingdom's weird?" And I remember having these vivid kind of dreams at night, the next 3 nights, and I remember saying after those, it was very weird. It was like I was there in this weird place. I don't know. And I told God, I said, if this is what your eternal life is, I don't want anything to do with it. And I thought I was horrible for saying this, but I understand now maybe why I was saying that. I remember going to church. There was a few times where I remember in Matthew 7:24 where they're talking about the wise and foolish builders, and that you build your house upon a rock. And I remember I would leave church feeling great because I would think about Jesus standing there. But then as I'm going home, in those 3 minutes, I would add all this stuff to it. Like, I had my whole house, and I had all the stuff I had to do and all the things. And then by the time I got home, felt so angry inside and depressed, and I thought, why are we adding stuff? Because I always remembered don't add, don't, and I always was a bit confused with that, but I never did anything about it. I realized I was a huge people pleaser, and so when I looked it up in the dictionary this last year, there was a part in there that said fear of men, and I thought that makes sense, because God asks us to fear him, not men. But I was a huge fear of other people, because I wanted them to like me, because I felt like I was a nice person. And so when my family moved up to Midway, we lived in Salt Lake. We moved up there when I was almost in the 5th grade, and I had these 9 LDS girls that bullied me for 2 months, and I didn't tell anyone. And I just kept thinking, kill him with kindness, kill him with kindness. And and I did. They became my friends, but I just realized, like, I was always trying to please everybody else at my own expense. Like, I held a lot inside, and I didn't really realize that I was a pretty angry child because I couldn't be that kid I wanted to be. I remember, my mom remembers me, like, always really being fascinated with Jesus, and like now I know it was his love for me that I was feeling. And I remember loving his parables but not quite understanding them, and I thought, well, they'll get to that, and they never quite got to it, and I never quite I'm just understanding. It's very exciting. I feel like a little kid. So I'm trying to think of what else in that time. I like just that they changed things a lot. Like, I remember how the blacks couldn't have the priesthood, and that always bothered me. It didn't ring. I thought that's racism, and it just really kind of ate at me. And everything that they ever changed was always like kind of with the government, and they had to change. And then just certain things, I'm like, but God doesn't change. So I was always confused with that. And I remember I always just kind of feeling like I didn't measure up, because I did have questions, and even though I wouldn't ask them, I just didn't live as righteously as like other kids. There were 8 in my family, so kind of the background is like my family both of my parents had 8 siblings. They were all LDS. My dad's mom was Lutheran in Norway, but she was converted and came over at 15, and I don't know how far back it goes, probably all the way back to Joseph Smith. But he just did it. It was the culture, it was everything. You just didn't really question it, especially here in Salt Lake, in Utah. You don't really come across anyone but Mormons at that time. So, in fact, I'd find myself almost jealous of like the 2 families in the neighborhood that weren't. I'd always be like, I wonder what their life's like. And they'd always put me to teach them. And so I always enjoyed it because I did have an easier time just chatting openly with people, because I would do it with the Mormons, but they almost didn't know how to handle it, because I am just kind of an open book. I just kind of talk about anything, and didn't really. I knew that they would talk about me or gossip, but I just didn't really care, I guess. But I did grow up with a lot of that, like just very judgmental. And I understand it now. It's how we're groomed. It's how we're raised. You can't really get away from it. It breeds. I mean, when you look at the foundation of it, it's sexual perversion with polygamy and the racism, and it was Joseph Smith's gospel. So, what I heard a lot about Joseph Smith was like, well, he was a farm boy, and so this had to have come from God. But when you look back, I started to realize he was actually very, what do you call it? He liked to study a lot. He didn't like farming, actually, and he loved to study lots and lots, and so he would, take all this stuff and mix it together. And even like the treasure seeking or the divination and magic and all that kind of stuff kind of was weird for me, because I knew I had heard some things in the Bible about that, but I didn't really put it together till later on. But in my 20s, that was a big thing, was well, as a teenager, I was a little bit wild. I didn't have a good relationship with men in my life. So I didn't know how to be around boys, and I didn't know how to stand up and say anything, so I just became sexually active. I was a little bit into partying a little bit, but I always was like, but I want to get married and have a family. I want to get married and have a family. I ended up pregnant at the age of 18 and by a return missionary, and we were married and started our family, and then sealed a year later. And we have 4 beautiful children. We were married for 10 years, and all through my 20s, so I left the church, I was 28, and all through my 20s, I remember just sitting on my bed, because I was really trying so hard to get into the Book of Mormon, and because it was always the Book of Mormon, and I'm like, if I can't get through that, how do I get to the Bible? And then if I read the Bible, I was like confused. I didn't know how to, because they didn't really teach you the Bible, and I felt like I needed some guidance. So I just would sit there and I would think, why? It was that scripture, it would always bother me. Is it Matthew 4:4? Yeah, it is written, Matthew 4:4, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. So I understood that it would feed me. It would feed my soul. And I'm like, this isn't feeding me. I don't understand. And I was frustrated. I was like, do you not love me, Jesus? You know, am I not your child? And I was so depressed and just not really living life. I loved being a mom, but I just didn't get it. I was just still confused. And so when my sister came, I have one older sister, I'm the second oldest of 8. Her and her husband came and said, we read this article, and it's called Why I No Longer Believe by Michael White. And they just kind of said it's, because you can't go to anti-Mormon literature. And so it's like you almost fear, everything's fear-based in that cult. And so it's like, you just don't go outside of that. And she said it's not that, it's like on history and the scriptures and just facts. And I said, she goes, do you want to read it? I go, yeah, I want to read it. I didn't hesitate. I was just ready. And my husband at the time was like, well, I'm going to read it, because he was scared I would then leave and be influenced. And so he's a quick reader, and he read it real fast before I even probably was halfway through, and he said, I gotta go. I gotta leave the church. And I just kind of looked at him, and he's like, I got a list of questions. I gotta go talk to my dad right now. And he came from a large LDS family as well. So when he asked his dad said, well, I know I have a bigger list than that, but that'll be answered later, and that was always a thing, like God will answer that later in the second coming or whatever. So that was always kind of the thing was, well, it's just how it is, and you can figure that out later. You don't need to question that. And so when I left, me and my husband were already hanging out with the neighbors, and we were drinking quite heavily, and we actually opened up our relationship, and so we were practicing like polyamory and polygamy at times. And so I didn't really leave in a sense the cult, but I ended up getting pregnant and by another man, and I just wanted it to go away, and I didn't stop and think through it, and I just kept telling myself that I was okay. I told myself that every day for a long time, and just because you tell yourself something doesn't ever make it true. So I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute, but that was all happening at one time. So me and my husband only knew each other for 4 months when we got married, and we both we wanted we were friends, but it was like we just wanted out of everything. And we just left the church. We left each other. And I had him and then 5 other adults that were in my life telling me to get the abortion as well. So that was all that was in my life. So it was just very kind of lonely and depressing. But one thing that kind of haunts me to this day, I guess in a sense everything happens for a reason, but God asked me 3 times to read the Bible. And I said no. And I wondered if it was God, but then I quickly thought, well, he wouldn't be talking to me. I'm not righteous enough. I look at what I've done. And I just thought, is it me? And I thought, well, why would that be me if I'm saying no? But it was an audible voice, but it's not like someone else would hear it if they were sitting by me. But I could hear it plain as day. Just read the Bible. And I said no, and each time I got more angry because I just wanted to go do what I wanted. I didn't want to. I was angry. And I didn't really see it until later on, that looking back, how upset and angry I was at God, that I was blaming him for, I didn't think he loved me for putting me in this religion, and that he didn't care. I don't know. I didn't really see it at the time, but I was in a complete rebellion against God. And reading the Bible, it's plain as day. It's almost kind of eerie reading, you know, in a good sense. It's amazing. But it's just like, oh wow. But I can see that how much he loved me and wanted to protect me from me. And the next decade of my life. So instead of doing that, I started getting into, I quit drinking and all that, but I started getting into, like, I was dating a guy that was into Taoism, and I started reading things like Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and just all the kind of Eastern stuff. And then I got into yoga and tarot readings and just a lot of different things that almost seemed innocent and didn't even look at it as spiritual or religious or anything like that. But I've studied a lot this past couple of years, so a lot has my eyes have been open quite a bit. But actually at the age of 12, I was yelling at my mom, telling her that some people have to learn it the hard way, and I was told 3 things that would happen, and it was kind of shocking at the time, but I believe it was God letting me know, because he knows everything, so that I was going to do some things in my later 30s, and I didn't understand at the time, but they came to pass. So I started using drugs and hanging out with people downtown in Salt Lake, and I chose to be homeless and took my kids down with me. It was very self-hatred, just a lot of built up pain and depression and all the things that come from, well, a lot of it I would stem back to my abortion, but I would always kind of stay there. And then, because after I left the Mormon religion, I just couldn't think about it. It just made me physically ill. Like, I just couldn't bring myself to really deal with it. When I started using drugs, it actually brought up the pain. And I realized that my abortion was killing me. It's like the pain was so great that I couldn't handle it. And so I started yelling out to God and just begging him for something. Or there were times I was testing him. There were times I was just so, I don't know, we had it in for a while. We were, I knew he was there. I knew he was there. I could feel him. I felt him more in those times than I ever had in my life. And I always questioned it because I was always told that he won't be there for you in those times because you're a horrible, wicked person if you're not following their beliefs. So, I did start to realize that I had a big problem and that I needed to get help and figure it out. And I had to leave. I had to leave to get, so I went to Arizona, and it took me a while, but I did get cleaned up, and I did talk to God quite a bit in that time and told him I would do anything that I wanted to know him. And I started praying about wanting to read the Bible. And I know it had never left me that he had asked me to. And then when I did read the Bible, it talked about, you know, the angels are messengers and all this stuff. And then I just knew it was him, and that he loved me. And so I asked, and I kept seeing this Bible study group for women, and it was a Christian Bible study group. But then I met this guy that wanted to date me, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. And he goes, I have some people you can study the Bible with. I said, okay. So this was 2 years ago in July 4th. And she was super nice. She actually, same age as my mother, reminded me a lot of my mom, a lot. And I started studying. I let her know. I said, I don't want to become a member of anything. I don't want to, I just want to know Jesus. I just want to know the Bible. And she said, okay. And she told me how they have a printing press and everything. So I thought how cool that was that they had this printing press, that they were printing the Bible. I realized at first that they make their own Bible, just like Joseph Smith has his own translation. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm going along these lessons, I'm just keep telling her, you know, because I can see how it's progressing and she's wanting me. I went to some conferences even, and it's funny, they remind me so much of Mormons, but they're just, their doctrines are different, but they're still, I could see both. They're weird, you know, it was so crazy. And I love how God works out. And so she, that was about 4 or 5 months that I studied, and then I just knew I needed, I think the last time we had studied was she had said that they believe that Jesus is Michael, the angel Michael. And I was just like, okay, I got to go. Like, I can't do this again. And I was like, God, did you want me to get into another cult? Like, what is going on? And so I went, and I told her, I said, I have to study on my own. I need to study my Bible on my own. And I went and got a real Bible, not even the King James Version. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just needed something. And I just, I tried talking with her, but it just, I just couldn't, and I had to stop answering her calls, which I feel bad about, but I just really was set on knowing Jesus, and I prayed, and I was like, I asked something about it, and I didn't even look it up, and it was on my phone, I swear to you, and it said that once you are deceived in a religion, false doctrine, it's easier to get deceived in that. And so, you know, it's funny because I'd talk to my mom and she'd tell me things about the weird about Jehovah's Witnesses, and then this Jehovah's Witness would tell me weird things about the Mormons, and I was just like right in the middle going, I see it's all just crazy and it's not true, and I gotta go. So I knew I wanted to be baptized, but I was like, I want to be baptized the way that the Bible says. And so so it was about a year ago in October where I started to really study on my own, and I had this breakdown, and it was right after it had been 13 years or 15 years, 13, from the time of my abortion, and I always had a hard time around that time of year, and so I knew that I needed to kind of deal with it all, deal with that, deal with Mormonism, the whole thing, and really, I guess in a sense, choose Jesus and truly follow him. And I did feel like I was seeking after him. I wasn't just going along for the ride. So I don't know, I guess I just set my mind on getting to know him, and he's beautiful.
Amen.
Yeah, so I came back to Utah in January of 2019, and I didn't know if I was going to stay or not, but I did kind of feel like God wanted me here, and I did kind of feel like it was something to do with maybe helping other people, because everyone I really know and love are Mormons, and it hurts. It's hard. They're hard people to talk with because they think they have the truth, and I understand that. And I tend to be a little bit, maybe too, I don't know. I need to work on my kindness and my patience and that sort of thing, because I just want to kind of be snotty about it. And that's not good. So for me, I just want to get to know him and really get to know the Bible, because I know that through all this, decade of studying things that were from different religions that are, what do they call them, that they pick things, it's like a...
Eclectic.
Yeah. I was like picking from each of them, and I didn't see that at the time, but it was very dangerous. Just my whole lifestyle was horrific. And about a year ago is when, yes, I had Jesus, but then I was dealing with my, for the first time, really kind of seeing our relationship with God and how we are sinners, but it was devastating. I mean, it hurts to have chosen things so dark and so rebellious that, the sorrow and the grief kind of took over, and I was quite suicidal. But I just every day begged God to help me. I said, and there was this fear that it wouldn't go away, but it went away about last October, and it just was like, wow. And when I asked him to help me with my desires, because I had gotten addicted to a lot of things, he took those away immediately. It was just amazing to me. Every path I took was a dead end, but him. No, was it. Like, there was no, I guess that's why, you hear like people once they know, it's like they want to share that with others, and they just have this passion to like have others know, because God loves them too, and those are his children and his creation. And to come to realize I was worshiping the creation and not the creator. And that's what I think most people are doing nowadays, is they're into the whole worship of what is created. And I don't know, I guess I'm hoping that my testimony will help others to come to want to turn to him, even before they keep making choices, or they're going to make choices that are going to bring a whole lot of pain and grief that is unnecessary. Because of course there's things I wish I would have known back then, or I would have listened, because he does talk to us. That's the thing, is maybe it's all in hindsight now, but if we just stop for a moment and just think on it, because when you look at all of what we have created, and it comes from someone making it, and so to think that there isn't one creator is sad. You're so alone. You don't have that intimate relationship. But he is always there, and that's what's amazing, is looking back on all the times that he was still there, even though I turned my back. Yeah. So, I don't know. I guess that's it.
All right. Well, thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
I do. So when did you get divorced? When did that all happen?
Well, we actually didn't. We separated in 2004, 2005. We didn't get divorced for 8 years, so we didn't get divorced till 2012.
Oh, okay.
We weren't ever together again, but we just didn't do anything about it for quite some time.
And so what has your Christian church experience been? Minus the whole COVID-19.
Yeah, right. Well, it's funny. Before I found Jesus, I had gone to a few, and me and this ex-boyfriend of mine had gone to California, and we went into a few different ones, and I really liked them. I didn't really get it, like the whole. I didn't really know how it worked, but. Then I started learning about born-again Christians. I was like, that's what I want to be. And then I went to a few around Salt Lake. And then I thought, well, I want to find one closer to home, because I'm up in Midway again. And my sister-in-law told me about what do you call them? It's not a ward. A congregation in Midway, and she works at a dental shop up there, and they just have it in that building. And I went, and I really liked it. It was a small congregation, and the pastor, they're probably around my age, and I love the fact that it's just right out of the Bible, and it's just there. It's not a bunch of things added. And yeah, so it's just all about his word, and it's amazing what it does. Like once I started reading the Bible, I was like, yeah, like I might have already said that, but it was like feeding me. Oh yeah, I had said that about the Book of Mormon. I'm like, why is this not doing anything for me? But when I read the Bible, it was alive, and I couldn't get enough. Like I felt I was kind of drowning in my sin, and like when I started reading, that's all I would do. That's pretty much what I do with my time. I can't get enough of him. It's beautiful. It's definitely food for the soul. And yeah.
I can really identify with what you were saying about the parables, how the LDS church kind of leaves you hanging because it doesn't ever get to what the parable really.
Yeah, they don't ever talk about what it means. They just tell you the story. You're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, but it fed me. It was like that feeling again when I came back to the Bible. I was like, oh, that was that thing back then. It was the Spirit. It was the real Spirit, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you said this already, but did you have your name removed from the records?
I was going to, but me and my ex-husband were supposed to go in for a jury, yeah, whatever.
The kangaroo court?
The court, and we refused, and I knew that we would be excommunicated, so I didn't. But we're off the records. But I would have, yes, I would have. And my oldest was baptized, so I recently asked him. He doesn't, none of my kids are. See, that's the thing is, when my oldest was 8 when we left, and so that was the thing is, I didn't really know how to be a parent. I was just like, I don't, look at what I've been teaching them, now I just don't know what to teach. I don't know what to do, and I didn't really put any boundaries, and that was not good either. So, yeah.
So where are your children? How are they doing now?
It's hard. Well, my son is in Arizona. He has, he has 2 of his own children, but she was pregnant at the time that they met. She's about 4 years younger than me. She's lovely. I love her. They're very kind of free-spirited. They're great parents. I just want them to read the Bible. And they will maybe someday. Then my second oldest daughter, she's in Las Vegas, and she's in a very tumultuous relationship, and she's still using. She's on meth. And that's very hard. It's painful, especially knowing I was that influence in their life. It's really hard. Then my next daughter lives with her boyfriend here in Salt Lake, and he has his own beliefs. I think they're kind of Eastern philosophies as well. So, but she knows where I'm at. I do plant seeds with them all. My daughter in Vegas actually she talks about Jesus more than anyone else, and she knows a lot. Like, I'm amazed at how much she kind of just has and knows. And so I'm trusting that Jesus knows what. I just keep him in my prayers a lot. And then my youngest, he's when all this kind of started happening with me, he was 9, and he went and lived with his dad, and he's 16 now. So my youngest would have been 15 last month. So he lives with his dad in Orem.
Did your husband go back to the Mormon church?
No. No, but he's not in anything either. I honestly don't know anyone with, I have a lot of, they would say Jack Mormons or, but I don't know that they don't believe. I don't know of anyone that, only my ex-husband's cousin, I recently realized is a Christian, and I was just ecstatic. I was like, because we got along well, and I really liked her, and she lives out in California, but yeah, we were both pretty excited about that. So, but I love my family dearly, and like it's hard. Most of my siblings have left. I think I only have one sister that's active, but they're all kind of in their own. They either don't know if they believe in God, or they just don't really think on it, or they're kind of into the, I don't even know what you call it really, Buddhism and Hinduism, and
New
I
Age.
just, the New Age stuff, for sure.
What was the single biggest thing that helped you put your trust in the Word of God?
I feel like he showed me some things when I was yelling out to him. I believe it was him. I saw fallen angels. I saw the demonic. I was living in the demonic. But he showed me, in a sense, I guess I feel like it's that scripture that says, unless you see miracles, you don't believe. That was kind of, because I was yelling out, I hate faith, because I had just heard it my whole life, like, just have faith, just have faith. And it's like, have faith in what? Like, there's so much. I just felt like I was going to blow up. It was so much. It was so heavy. And I was like, I just don't get it, And then he was there. And I just like, he just wanted me to have faith in him. And that was it. I was like, that just stayed with me. It took me a year to get out, and I still struggled even once I moved a little bit. But I actually went to get my daughter in Vegas, and she kept saying she was going to go, but so then I got stuck there for 2 months. I got my phone stolen. I had nothing, and I was just walking down the street, and I finally cried out again. I was like, please, Jesus, just get me to Arizona, and I'll just do anything. I was just like, please. And I looked up, and there was this old man and he told me to come, and he helped me. He got me to Arizona, and my son was living there at the time, and I went and told him that I was there, and I just wanted him to know that I loved him and that I was coming to get my life in order. And I was homeless for 2 months. I lived in a shelter, and I stayed clean. And then I bought a trailer, and I used a little bit then, and I hated every minute of it. And I thought, what am I doing? And then I just said that was it. And that's when I was really wanting to seek and get to know him, because even though I knew he was there, I didn't really know who God was.
What I hear you say is that personal God reached out to you.
Yeah, he did. Big time.
Something that really resonated with me was how you said, they always tell you that God leaves you when you sin. Well, you didn't say it in those words, but that's what you were basically saying.
Yeah.
But I remember my grandpa, when I first became a Christian, he said to me, now don't sin, because the Holy Spirit's going to leave you. And I didn't know why that was wrong, but I'm like, that's wrong. That's not right. He never leaves you.
Yeah.
He never leaves you.
I
But
had that
I agree
same
with
thought,
that same,
yeah.
there were times in my life when probably some of the most darkest moments and deepest sins, and I could tell you that God was there. He was there through that. So I really related to that.
Yeah. Well, and even in the Bible, it talks about him being there with the sinners and helping them. And so when they would say that, I'm like, it would be like, what? Because you don't think not to believe them in a sense.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I was kind of listening to them and not God. I wasn't really putting my, trust fully in him or seeking him completely. So, yeah.
Can you tell us about your work against abortion and like that's how you went up to the Capitol? How did you get involved in that?
Okay, so that's what happened. So I had this major breakdown in October, and then once I got here, I found a post-abortion class, an 8-week course based around with God in it. And
Was that at the PRC? Or no?
I don't know.
The Pregnancy Resource Center? They do. I'm just curious if it's the same one.
I'm not sure now
Okay.
if it is. For sure. I'm not.
It was
I found it
in
online.
Salt Lake, though?
It was actually in like Pleasant Grove area.
Okay.
And so I did that, and that was very helpful. And then one of the ladies, she is really for pro-life. She's one of the main ladies, Deanna Holland.
Mm-hmm.
She was at our classes, and so then I started seeing them go to these pro-life things, and the speaker at the last pro-life meeting was one of the girls that we had been in my class, Dusty, and so I just kind of reached out to Deanna, and she had asked me if I would come and tell my story at the Capitol, because they were trying to pass a law on
The ultrasounds?
the ultrasounds and how that could make a big difference because back when I went through it, I didn't even know anything on it. They didn't help you with any, it was
They tell
just-
you it's a clump of cells. That's what they told.
Yeah,
That's
a clump of cells, and they don't talk with you. They just want to do it. So there's no support whatsoever, So I did that a couple of times, and because honestly, like, it is the most devastating thing for a woman to ever go through. It's just not.
Life affirming.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're killing your own child. That's in your womb. I mean, you're waging a war inside of you. That's what it is. I mean, I know people don't want to hear it, and they don't want to accept it, but it's there. You can't run. You can't hide. It affects you. It affects you. So, and then it affects everyone in your life, And I was even feeling guilty about being a mother to my children. I was feeling this, once it all came up, the pain was so intense because it's not like it wasn't always there. You just are bearing every single one, for years and years. And they've come with studies showing that the average is usually 15 to 20 years that women start, then it comes up. So you're bearing all that for so long, and then it all comes to the surface. So it's so intense, like it's unbearable. And that's why I can't imagine not having the power of Jesus. I don't know how I wouldn't be here. I know I would have already taken my own life. I just couldn't do it.
Do you think your drug use was related to that, stemmed from that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like numbing that pain or?
Well, and it's weird because it actually brought it up.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, I don't know. It might have numbed it at first, but,
For so long.
and I think too, even just the pain of Mormonism, it's painful. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. that is a lot of baggage that's just false and not helpful. So, and I was even telling the girls coming up, it's like, I still find myself, there's those tendencies of behavior of like, because I have this desire that I've never had for Jesus and wanting to have, I don't have these desires to, because I know where they lead, these things I've already done, but it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. What was your question?
Just about the drug use, like if
Oh,
it
yeah.
stemmed from that, just kind of.
Yeah, so, it always kind of came back to the abortion, which I do think it does stem from that. But then it always kind of stopped there. And I feel like I didn't want to deal with the whole Mormonism thing. Even though I left and I didn't turn back, I was like, I'm fine. I'm okay. It's okay. No, I lost my whole family. Like, really. I started hanging out with family that partied and stuff, but that wasn't helpful either. So it just went deeper and deeper for me until, I was that person I hated. But but if you were to get the help or even beforehand, I can't say enough about, you really don't want to get an abortion. You think that it's going to take care of it. It's just like you want it to be over with. You're in shock, you're surprised, whatever. It's not the answer. Taking a life is not the answer. And so what I just kept hearing from God is like, two wrongs don't make a right. You know what I mean? Because I just wanted to be done. Like, I didn't want to feel this pain anymore. I didn't want to. But then I just kept thinking, he's already felt this. And just mine. This is just mine. Like, what about everyone else's? I was like, I can do this. Like, so I just had to beg him, honestly, almost every night to help me through. And I just was like, I'm holding on. And I did. And I'm grateful that I did because he was faithful. He's amazing. And he's so much more. He's so much more than Mormons could ever know unless they know. Like, that was one thing that I every time I heard it, I'm like, that isn't true. Like, and I said it out loud too. I was like, that isn't true. When they would say that God was a man and then this and like, I was like, that isn't true. Like, it just didn't ring true. And so then when
like they were minimizing God.
Yeah, and it minimizes him so much, and then it exalts you. It makes you feel like you're gonna be a god. And then I even thought, that's like evolution. That's like saying that, like, they make fun of evolution. Well, it's the same thing. If we're like evolving from ape to this and that, how are we evolving from human being to God? And if you look at it, really, it's kind of makes complete total sense. I mean, God didn't create himself. He created everything else. So it's like he's just the only one. There's nothing else going to be like him. There's nothing else like him. And that's awesome. Mm-hmm. That's real. That's something to hold on to and to want as your foundation in life. Mm-hmm. When it's just, I mean, they've already scientifically been proven that's impossible for that to happen, and then that God has a father, and then it's just no, and so then it made me happy that I said I don't want anything to do with that kingdom, because I was like, isn't everlasting life just everlasting life with God? Like, isn't everyone the same? And when they would always try to tell me, well, we have a little more than Christians, because, and I was like, I don't get that. Like, I want to know, And it's weird because I was thinking just like a month or two ago, I'm like, I had never known a Christian. Like, I have never, since because even when I started studying, I was with Jehovah's Witnesses. So then I came here and I was still around Mormons, and I was like, where's the Christians? But I even pray, I was like, God, I know that I'm going to find a group of women. And it's funny because I kept seeing myself going to this certain coffee shop in Heber, and that's where they meet. Karen's part of it. And so I was so excited. And So I love going to the women's Bible study. It's my favorite. And I love going to church too. I just do. I love, and then I go to another Bible study on Thursday nights that have people in our congregation. Well, not since COVID, but like I said, I can't get enough of the Bible. It just is an amazing
I have
piece
a
of work.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find now that you are less self-conscious? That you're not concerned about pleasing other people
Yes.
and what they might think of you?
Yes.
As
Oh,
you started
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
saying
big time.
you were a people pleaser.
Oh yes, I was a major people pleaser, and so it's a conscious thing too, because I want to please God, and I know that isn't going to please anyone else. I know that they might hate me. I always can hear their voices, like, who does she think she is? You know, because I did become that, which was, and it talks about that in the Bible. Like, my whole life's there. I'm like, it's like kind of wigs you out a little bit, but I know that there's millions out there like me, and I just would love for them to turn from their sin, you know. But I'm not gonna compromise what other people think because of our beliefs being different or anything else. And I don't put myself in those situations either, because I'm not gonna think that I'm stronger than I am.
Yeah. So, go ahead, sorry.
No.
You have found the truth, is what you believe. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely,
Yes.
without a doubt.
And it has transformed your life, it sounds like.
It's the only thing, like, and I have been down, you know, I was going to share that as a child I used to have this reoccurring dream, and I said it was a nightmare because it left me not feeling well, but it wasn't like freakishly scary, but it was this reoccurring, I had it at least 7 to 10 times, if not more. It was this road. It didn't have lines in it, but it was this dark road, and it was dark all around, and I was always going straight, and then I always knew it was 50% there, right? And there was this big semi in the way, so I'd have to walk around to get in, but then you'd go into it like a RV or whatever. So I'd go walk in, and there were these little people, and they'd be like, you cannot go no further, you must turn around now. It was all like, you know, that little song, and it kind of, it was almost like, you got to go back. And so I was like, what did that mean? Like, and I knew it meant something, and I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's like, it always looked the same, this path always looked the same. I was always trying to get somewhere. You know, I was up for doing my works, you know, so trying. Like, try, and I never made it. And I just remember thinking I never made it, you know. And it's like, because there's nowhere to go. Like, you have to go, you know, you follow Jesus, then you'll make it. But that's him. Like, he did it all, and it's finished. Like, that's the one thing, too, that I never quite got. It's like the restoration of the gospel. Like, wasn't it finished when Jesus gave his life? Like, that just was always kind of something that stood out too. I didn't quite get it all. I mean, it makes sense now, but
I have another question for you. Kind of not off topic, but a little bit. So, sharing your story down at the Capitol, was that scary, and was it also like kind of freeing and healing? I'm just curious.
Yes, I was very nervous for sure. I was shaking bad. But I feel like it's the only reason I want to share any time is just for Jesus. I just feel like he doesn't want us to be having abortions. He's not okay with that. And I just want others to be helped by that. I want just, even if it's just one person out there, you know, it's worth it. Like, just anything for Jesus, really. He's just amazing.
Yeah, what's that verse that he's going to make up for the years the locusts have eaten? I don't know. I loved that when I was, I'm just saying that he turns, what's that verse about? He comforts those so that they can then in turn comfort others. I don't know.
2 Corinthians 1.
Rob knows where all these
Yeah,
are.
that's-
I know
that's
I don't know
at the
I don't know
beginning
the
of the
addresses. He's good with addresses.
He posts those at the beginning,
Yeah.
right before the testimony. I love that.
Oh, you do?
I'm glad you said that, Tara. I
I don't
didn't
watch.
tell you
I
that.
don't watch the beginnings.
That's a terrific verse.
Yeah, good. I just think it's so cool that you're able to, like, it'll be cool to see one day, you know, like sharing your story, because I do feel like God allows us to go through things, even our own sin, because he then in turn uses it for like a bigger purpose that we can't even see right now. So it's gonna be cool one day to see like how he used your story and, you know, all of our stories
Yeah.
for his glory, which we don't always understand.
Well, and that's the thing, because I was very concerned. I'm like, I don't want to come across, like, this is for his glory. Like, it's all about him. So I don't want to do anything that would be unpleasing to him. And that because I'm so good at being in rebellion and not pleasing him, like, that's a fear of mine. Like, so I'm just like, I don't want to do something that's not going to be pleasing to you, God. And so it helped me to watch other people's. I was like, I need to get into watching some videos on, because they comforted me. So then then that helped me to then think, okay, like, we can all be there for each other, and this is good.
Is your, what you said in the Capitol, is that on YouTube?
Oh
Is that-
you
did
did
you
testify
record
or
it?
did you?
I know they had it on Facebook.
I'll have to get on
I might have it. I don't.
there. I wanted to watch it, so
Yeah.
I was hoping.
Yeah, they had a few different stories of ladies
Oh.
in post-abortion that.
Yeah, KSL documented it, but I don't know.
KSL did.
You never told me about video that they took of you.
Yeah, they recorded it, and then I might have it on Facebook. I can look and see. I don't know.
Well, we better close it off.
Yeah.
Would you close us in prayer, please?
Sure. God, we just want to thank you for tonight and for this opportunity to share for your glory and for your praise that we have found you, and for your love and just your unconditional love for all of us. I pray that we will keep you at the forefront of our lives, and to help us to seek after you and to seek others that might need our help, and that we might have the love and compassion that you give us for those people, that they might know you as well, because I know that you want us all back with you, and you just want to leave tonight in safety and in your spirit. And we say this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.